1 year ago, we met a group of men, and a great leader emerged in the shape of Jeremy Blaine. This is because we thought that when men care for women, then the revolution will begin. And we invited about 10 men to be interviewed or pushed around by Baroness Verma. It was amazing. It was an amazing thing. And from then on, we've done quite a few meetings, but it was not just a big meeting, but we tried to keep our desire to have men helping women. That's why now I ask Jeremy, despite every difficulty, we want to launch this, but Jeremy will launch it. But we as women, we support him 100%. And do you have anything to say, my darling? Because we started talking to Jeremy, me and Lorna. This is Lorna, an amazing woman.
Thank you.
Then there is Robin.
Should have said girl.
Girl.
Oh, well, everything that Margaret says, but I don't like the word help.
Help, no help.
Male allyship is about working side
Together.
by side. So that's why I don't like the word help. But like Margaret says, based on us having a meeting where we need men to also support the cause, which is why we had this thing in Parliament, which was very good. And we had a lovely group of men, which Jeremy was part of, Nick was also there, Costas.
Yeah. And the others are not there because they're not their way.
Yeah. But it was so good to have that, and it kind of shows that we do need men to work side by side with us to understand the issues of women and to help us push the cause. So which is why from that, this has emerged, and Jeremy has willingly offered to lead on this for us. And it's a much needed cause. So it's all about men working side by side with us, understanding what women need. And then we move from there. But we're so happy to have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Robin now. Robin the boss.
Well, there's a team of us, and most of the team is women. So we've been working together for a long time. What I wanted to say was welcome to Lancaster Gate and to a place where Universal Peace Federation has many events, many programs. This time of year is a time when we do focus on particularly elimination of violence against women, 16 days of activism. And I'm so happy to see Justina, who's been organizing some events with us. The Duchess also has been talking also about having events during these 16 days. So the 16 days is a good part of the calendar when this issue can be really focused on and pushed forwards. I was thinking the time of the suffragettes, the progress really came when men and women worked together.
Yeah.
You know, when the men saw that their wives were not being treated correctly, their daughters, their mothers, then a good number of them got up and helped. And I think that's where we need to be, that we're working together to correct something. And I'm looking forward to supporting Jeremy in this program tonight. Thank you very much. Please come up, Jeremy. Thank you.
You're all welcome.
I can't stand behind there, although I need to in a minute. Thank you very much. I'm learning because I do everything that Margaret asked me to. We're all learning, and I just thank you. This was for us kind of a soft launch for our core group, which we've opened up a little bit as well. But by opening it up and on LinkedIn. I'm going to tell you what's happened later on that, and we've already got a couple of events following outside of London because there's so much interest in this as well. And when I talk about this, and hearing what you were saying, Lorna, as well, this is about being side by side. It's a fine line being a male ally or advocate without being patronising, taking over, thinking that you know the answers, doing things to protect somebody because you think that's your instinct to do so. But there are nuances in this as well. So today I'm going to take you through just very quickly. We do have a little bit of an agenda on this one, because the main bit about today is I do want to explain the why, what and how of MAGE, which is our new group, and thank you all for coming. But what I really want to do is get to action. Mm-hmm. So an action doesn't mean big changes. It means the right small actions so we can make progress and build momentum. That's really important, otherwise we'll set ourselves up for failure. This is a huge topic and a huge problem in some parts of the world, and we've got to be very clear about what we can do and how we should progress so that we're doing things in the right way with the right people on board. So you'll notice also, I think within the core group here, we have a lot of passionate people here, and it's people. This is, yes, a male group, if you like, but this is about everyone. And we need the voice of women in this group as much as we need the voice of men in this group and others, so that we get the messaging right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through, we're on the third bit now, I'm going to take you through a little bit about the background in here. And there's a couple of stories in the room here, and I might just bring one or two of you into that at the moment. But before I start, I'm also just going to introduce a couple of people that have been with us from the very beginning, and they want to say a couple of things. But then actually, I just want to get into some group discussion about this. So if in this room we can split into 4 groups, so we've got men and women in both of those groups, we can actually work on some next steps. We're only looking for 2 or 3 next steps in these 4 groups, but that's action. And that's what we're doing. And then there's other action from it as well. And then I think because I know there's a lot of people caught and there were some more that were due to come, we'll make sure we've got time for questions as well. But first, I must say a massive thank you to Nick and Costas as well, who are joining us here, who have been there from the beginning as well. We've been talking about this. We know our heart's in the right place, but we know how difficult this is as well. But I'd love to invite you two just to say a couple of words, if you like. I can bring the mic, or you're welcome to come up. Nick's coming already. Here he is. Come on. Give him a round of applause for Nick. Yeah. So a couple of minutes to, talk about why you're doing it.
It's just enough to get my name and address.
I know.
I know that. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Margaret, thank you for inviting me to this extraordinary organisation. I'm always a pleasure to, when I can come, I always attempt to come, because I think you're doing an extraordinary job, all of you here. And it's about teamwork as well. I always believe in teamwork. My best friend is a chap called Lord John Bird. He founded The Big Issue. And when he was once asked how he started The Big Issue a few years ago, he mentions Alexander the Great. Not that he thinks he's Alexander the Great, but he mentions that because he said when Alexander the Great was asked, how did you conquer Persia? His response was, I had a few people with me. So when people ask me how I do the work I do, I mention Alexander the Great, but I do point out I'm not suggesting I'm Alexander the Great, but I have a few people with me. But I'd just like to say that this issue of gender equality is not a new issue. It's been going on since time immemorial. Women are the biggest discriminated group in the world, and I was having this conversation with Jeremy earlier on. In every society, in every faith, in every community, women do suffer discrimination in one shape or the other, okay? It's a huge challenge, but I always bring up this quote, which I love. It's an African proverb. If you teach a woman educate a woman, she'll educate one person. Sorry, if you teach, sorry, if you educate a man, he'll educate one person. If you educate a woman, she'll educate a nation. Yeah, really, and I love that because I think, and I have to tell you a funny story. Many years ago, this is before the Iraq War, when Tony Blair took us into the Iraq War, which I fell out with Blair and everyone supporting that war. A friend of mine, an actor friend of mine, very famous actor friend of mine, he used to go around in a skirt, a leather skirt. And he asked me whether he can come to the Labour Party conference. And I said, yeah, of course you can. Came there, and we went to a function with Tony Blair, okay? And I remember saying to Tony Blair, this is after the Iraq War, by the way, I said to Tony Blair, you know that if you wore a skirt, you would never have taken us into a war, yeah? I cannot think in the last few centuries a woman, other than Mrs. Thatcher, which she said that she did it because of the interests of Britain, Falklands, I cannot think of a single woman in the last few centuries who's taken us into a war or who's been responsible for genocides. Can anyone name any woman? No. Yeah, but I can name countless men. Men are, quite frankly, dangerous. And I sometimes wish I was born a woman. Okay, really, I do. I admire women more than... If the women were running the world, it would be a far better place to live. But the thing I will say is you have a challenge. MAGE has a challenge because you're doing what millions of people have tried for decades to do. But everything starts, as Jeremy said, in small steps. I believe that change in the world starts with... I quote, of course, Neil Armstrong. Do you remember his quote? When he landed on the moon, he said, "This is one step for man, but a giant leap for mankind." So I believe that if each one of us takes one tiny little step, you might think it's not significant to bring about the kind of world that we would like to see. Together, it could be a giant leap. So you're absolutely right. So set yourself a challenge, not one which can never be delivered, but just say, I'll just make a tiny little noise about this. And if we all make those little noises, it becomes a huge, loud mammoth, yeah, that everyone in the world can hear. Yeah, so I'm happy to do what I can in the limited time I have, but I do congratulate you because you're doing things, in small steps, but I think soon people will start taking note of what you're doing, and I'm happy to do anything I can to help you in my own way. I apologize because I'm involved in so many things at the moment, but I'm willing to give my time to help you because I think you're very passionate, Margaret, and Robin as well. I do really congratulate you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I want to thank Duchess Naveen for introducing me to your organisation 3 years ago. She's doing an extraordinary job as well. There you go.
Good evening, everyone. I didn't prepare anything. I didn't know that I will be talking, but I'll just say from my heart why I'm here. Well, obviously, there's a common denominator, Margaret. So she said, you will be good for the group. So for me, having experienced domestic violence back in Greece, and it just is not nice. And I thought, I always knew that there is a proverb, a tree cannot grow under the shadow of another tree, from Leo Buscaglia. So everyone wants their own life to be able to grow and have their purpose in life. So unfortunately, the way in which the world is, the stronger usually impose their will to the weaker, and that is happening more often to the ladies. But the good thing is that I see it a bit like yin-yang. I found myself, I've been here 28 years, and I found myself going to a lot of health courses. I've been to courses even with 45 women, and the only guy been there. So you don't need to be a big, to have a big number. It's like being the dot on the female, being the dot that you balance. And personally, because I work with health courses with a lot of women, they acknowledge that it's so good to see a balanced masculine energy. I'm not saying that I'm balanced, I think I am, but it is just they need to see that, and it gives them hope. Because when you see that, oh, that can be the masculine, divine masculine behaving this way, then they give them hope to believe again that they can work together. So the reason I'm here, I like actually Jeremy, of course I like you as well, Nick, but I say but I think they have the heart in the right place. Everyone is very busy with the projects and life. So I think the more stronger and normal people, I consider myself normal, we are, the more we can inspire other people. So that's why I'm here, and I follow the signs of life. It happened naturally. I wasn't seeking for that. You mentioned you really wanted me to come. I came there. I like the guys. I said, okay, how can I help? And as you said, Jeremy, just 1-2 steps, at least we're moving forward, we build momentum, and the right people will be attracted. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. We're going to end up, everybody's going to be speaking, I think, if Margaret's got anything to do with it, and me as well. But, pardon? I have to speak now. I am doing so, Margaret. Thank you very much indeed, yes. So, a couple of things, though, that I will say. I like what you just said there. I think we have to have our eyes to the sky of what we can do, but our feet firmly on the ground. And we are normal people. I'm a normal bloke, I think, aren't I, Rochelle? Would you say? Yeah, right. What do you mean I'm? Yes, that was too quick. Yes, oh yes, that's right. Rochelle saw my pumpkin, and then you didn't think I was normal, right? No. I even posted that one on LinkedIn. Okay, so, and of course, when we talk about diversity and inclusion, there are lots of other lenses, we know that, but gender equality and gender diversity is one of the biggest that we can pull to have the biggest impact. But I want to bring a sense of the other lenses and what we can learn from them towards the end after we've done the group work, because once we've done that group work and we've got some actions, that may fuel into that as well. And we have a guest, Joel, at the back, producer, filmmaker, the gypsy billionaire. Is that I'm right? Yeah, that, if anybody's watched that. And you're doing a new show now, is it about the vegan community?
Correct, yeah.
Is it? Yeah. My best friend's vegan. So Joel has been at the heart of different communities, and different communities also that are discriminated against. And I think it would be really interesting to get a sense of what you've seen and what you've learned from that as well. And thanks Duchess Naveen, for bringing along Joel as well. Would you like to say anything? No? Okay. Right, okay. So I think, though, we should pause and just get real, okay, for a minute. And for me, I have to say, if you ask me the reason why I'm so passionate about this, and I've been working in male allyship for a while, is that I'm ashamed of my ignorance. So I'm going to put myself out there. It's the things that I didn't know which have spurred me to action. Okay, and I'm going to share just a few of those. And I am genuinely ashamed that some of these things I really didn't know about. And I'm kind of, for me, moved to action and moved into a movement because we have too many negative voices on the other side. So this is, if you forgive the phraseology, a little bit of a confessional, first of all right? So, I didn't know that women and girls groups receive less than 2% from UK charities' giving pots, which is nowhere near adequate for dealing with discrimination, violence against women and girls, but let's call that abuse against women and girls, because abuse is a much wider terminology. Violence is one aspect of that for me. That's one element where I would challenge that community on, is that abuse can be verbal. It doesn't have to be violent, but that's key. But the violence against women and girls, the V bit, is really key and somewhere where we really do need to know more about. And I didn't know that 1.6 million women per year in the UK suffer from domestic abuse. 1.6 million. But this bit, and this will shock you if you don't know this, okay? And just go with it. If I murder a woman, okay, my minimum jail sentence will start at 25 years, okay? That's not the shocking bit. If I was married to that person or had a relationship with that woman, my jail sentence would start at 15 years. Just think about that. Because I had a relationship with them, it's like, that's saying it's more acceptable. That's nonsense. Nonsense. Sorry? Yeah, well, perhaps, but you know. Sorry?
They'll say that there's mitigating circumstances will be the excuse.
Well, yeah, and that's it. It's all an excuse. But why? Because when the shoe's on the other foot, that's not the case, by the way.
Partly the problem, sir, is because the judges are male who give these sentences.
Right, well, I think this is exactly right. So we're going to talk about what's happening in the manosphere, or the male sphere, whatever we want to call it. But here's something else I didn't know. In the last 5 years, violence against women and girls has increased by a whopping 37%.
That's why I don't understand.
That police chiefs call explicitly an epidemic. Why do more people not know about this? You know, or take it in. Why are we not educating families, communities? Nick?
Jeremy, there's one thing I should add to that. I did a lot of work in prison.
Yep.
I took the Anne Frank story in prison. The one prison I went into in Portsmouth, everybody was there for a case of murder. And the surprising thing is, this is the other thing a lot of people don't know, they just assume that killers of women, violence towards women, that comes from working class people. But actually, most of those murderers that were in the prison I went to, they were doctors,
Yep.
they were lawyers, they were professionals. So we've got to break this myth that it's only the ones that look like they're going to be violent, yeah, and it's a class thing. It's not. It comes across all classes. Can be violent.
Interestingly enough, it's actually the biggest population of this is in the upper middle class, as was. And in fact, there is a lady that I'm working with over in Swindon who is, you know, from that echelon, and it's a horrific story of her and her network. I agree. Great point. That is a really great point. Here's another one that I didn't know. 1 in 20 of all adults in the UK are perpetrators of abuse or violence in gender terms. The vast majority are men. 1 in 20. So, this links to another point. And another point for me is that when a major football, particularly football tournament, is on, domestic abuse spikes by nearly 40%. And the vast majority is men, yes. It's alcohol, it's sport, it's gang, it's tribal. And yeah, I don't have the Christmas data, but I'll take your word for it. Yes, yeah. But if you think about that, so when I was in the corporate, I have a portfolio career now, but when I was in the corporate world, I managed teams of up to 70, 80 people, let's say, you know, in there. I used to think it was such a great idea when there was a big football match on to have screens in the office and, you know, make it a big event. But I got it wrong, because within that team of 80, there are at least 4 perpetrators of domestic abuse and violence based on that. And I'm not even thinking about that, because we're not aware about it, you know, as men. And that's shocking. Yeah.
As well, but maybe you didn't know this. A few years ago, the domestic violence, what happened with second generation migrants, right? And the Labour Party at the time was scared to address this. So I spoke to the Health Secretary at the time, how to bring it to the attention. The domestic violence that were taking place with second generation youngsters against the grandmothers. For instance.
That's right.
And the problem that happened was the grandmothers had no way of communicating their pain to anybody because they couldn't speak English. And that's one of the reasons that David Blunkett, who was the Home Secretary at the time, kind of introduced the idea that English should be made compulsory. Yeah. So basically, I think that they then introduced this language thing that you could access help, where these mainly elderly folk were getting abused by their grandchildren.
Yeah.
Their monies were getting robbed, their pensions were being robbed, and the government didn't know how to tackle it without, they were worried that they'd be accused of targeting particular communities.
And in fact, you're preempting a piece of data also that I didn't know, which is related to that I looked at. So I looked at the national that I did, but then I went to my home county. My home county is Wiltshire. I thought, oh no, rural, West Country, going to be really, really lovely. But in my county, in the last 5 years, there have been 42,000 domestic abuse crimes against victims ranging from 1 year old to 104, to your point. It's a generational issue, and it's how we're educating our kids, the lack of great male role models in communities, gang culture, online and social media, and these so-called out groups, which are raising, that is going on there. So that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm ashamed to say, are a lot of things that I didn't know. And that's why I'm standing here and saying, I've got a lot to learn, but I want to lead this as well. And I want to do something, with everybody in this room. So with that in mind, the hat that I normally wear is twofold, okay? The hat that I normally wear is I work with businesses at the intersection of digital leadership and workforce transformation, and I have a social enterprise because I'm as passionate about our young talent and preparing them for the future. But there is always, for me, a gender equality lens in there. Our social enterprise rule is that every group must be 50-50 gender equal. Yeah, or male and female, should I say. So that's been a part of it. And for me, it's not just I'm standing up now. I am doing this. I run male allyship and advocacy programs in the corporate world, but also now in my community. So I've started this. So since we started this group, probably about a year ago maybe, that's what I've been doing. I've been learning myself. I've been having these discussions because we've also got to create a safe space for men to be able to have the conversations they want to have and actually challenge what they're experiencing, because some of this they may think the dial has tipped one way too far or one way and the other. And having those conversations up front is a very interesting point for me as well. So, and I was very pleased. I wanted to mention, because I knew you were coming, Justina, and I wanted to say it's always looking so glamorous. I mean, look at me next time. I can't compete. But I wanted to say a big thank you to Justina, who recognised this. We took a group of young girls that we've been working with within our social enterprise to this activity last year, and I was honoured to receive a recognition of that, and it just fuels my fire to do more. And we met there for the first time, didn't we, as well? Yeah. So here's some things that I think that we should have in mind, because I do a lot of work in the corporate world as well. And if we look at the business case for this, it's also the case in our communities, in public sector, in education, particularly education and institutional areas. So organisations prioritising gender diversity improvements reported a 40% growth in attraction, retention, and the growth of their organisation in terms of recruitment. They become attractive as an organisation. This is at a time in history where employees have more power than they've ever had, because they have choices. They can be an entrepreneur, they can be a gigger, they can have 3 jobs, they can be fractional workers. Can't they, Rochelle? Yeah, that's right, yeah. Rochelle, for those of you who don't know, Rochelle is my co-author on a book on this topic, actually, so we're quite passionate about that. But Deloitte this year, talking about the most diverse and inclusive organisations are growing twice as fast as their peers. That shouldn't be a surprise to everybody in here, but the noise on the other side of the table now, the negative noise, is that this has gone too far. But we know diversity of thinking, it makes a big difference. We are not hiring in our own image anymore. We need different thinking. We need that diversity of thought that comes in. And that biggest lever to pull is gender. The other thing is on the left-hand side, those organisations that have the least diversity in their hires or their employees have an average revenue from innovation of about 25% of their total. But the most diverse organisations are more innovative, almost half of them. That's what's fueling so much of the growth, and it's also hitting the bottom line by 9 percentage points. Not 9%, 9 percentage points, more diverse organisations. But, why we're also here is to fight the so-called backlash that we've seen out there. Here's some quotes here. This was said by a man, of course. It was said by a man. But, you think about the people like the Jenkinses, the Tates, all of these things, but also actually a lot of the young influencers and creators that are attracting more Generation Z right now as well. This is where we need a strong voice to counter that. I talked about outgroups before, these male-only groups, because the feeling with some men is that it's gone too far in their organizations. They're not getting opportunities because they're making gender hires, they call it. Now, there is grains of truth in that for some organizations because they're not managing it very well. And that's where actually I do most of my work in male allyship is with these groups to try and balance out this argument and talk about meritocracies and talk about gender invisibility in many ways in business. And it's no surprise to me, and here's I didn't want to put this on a slide, but 80% of those that join my group are average to low performers, and they're the ones complaining about not getting the promotional opportunities. They're blaming, they're not taking ownership or accountability or responsibility for themselves. It's easy to say, it's okay, a woman's going to get it, or this is going to get it, or a neurodiverse is going to get it over there. Actually, 80% of the time, it's them. Yeah. But these outgroups are real, I think. We all know what's happening in the US with these. I mean, I was moved to post furiously on LinkedIn at the beginning of this year when KPMG actually posted, which was very silly of them, from their leadership on LinkedIn and social medias, how they were going to stop their diversity and inclusion activities. I was absolutely disgusted. And my partner in my social enterprise, Anna, who is one of the most incredible leaders that I've ever met in my life, she is ex-KPMG, and we kind of joined forces on this and called them out. That is also something that I just want to place there in the table now, because MAGE, our group, is about speaking up, speaking out, and acting upon that feeling, not internalizing it. It's okay to be, it's okay. There's lots of people who get outraged but not move to action. It's either deep emotion or it's outrage. We've got to have a middle ground here and own it, where we call it out with data, with a balanced argument, and we move the dial in action terms and in mentality and mind shift terms. And finally, the truth of the matter is this. The truth, so regardless of what you might read on, and I'm not assuming that anybody in here takes to heart what is on X these days or any of the platforms like this, which is a hub of this negative outrage. And some of these outgroups is the facts are that 1 in 3 women have been discriminated against, suffered microaggressions. Do you know what microaggressions are? Microaggressions, have you come across that terminology? So this is also what I've learned is, it's the little things, it's the bias, it's what I say, it's mansplaining, it's saying this, it's saying that. It's like, oh, well, you're a woman, so you're going to be first in place for that, promotion. It's those little things that just nitpick, but which actually are causing a groundswell of a negative movement. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is exactly right. And that's just within that time period there. But if we flick that round, there is something very interesting now happening from the research that I've been doing over this last year, and particularly the work in communities that I'm doing, which is exposing men and young men particularly, who have wholeheartedly jumped on this bandwagon of negativity and outgroups and say, it's like we need to celebrate our manhood again and do all of this. Actually, there is a huge population of those men now who are lonely, have mental health issues, and who've been damaged by this. We need to help them. So it's okay to call out, but some of those men need help and are ready to listen to the balanced argument. And I've put this up here because this is a brand new documentary that is just out. Go and have a look at this. It is shocking to watch. It talks about some of these men and what's happening. And on the flip side, those perpetrators who are on X and those bots who are doing it, how much money they're making and how little they care. How little they care. But we care. Yep. So getting this right, here's real data. So if we truly win in advancing women's equality, what could it add to the world's economy in the next few years? Give me a number. $1,000? No, more than that. $1 trillion?
20 trillion.
20 trillion? $28 trillion. Yeah, 28 trillion, which makes it which makes gender equality, opportunity, and potential being the third largest economy in the world, if we get this right. Now, I'm not standing here and saying this is what we're going to do in MAGE. Yeah, okay, we can't do that. As we've all said, it's what are the small steps we can do, and how can we spread the word over months, over years, with the right people, with the next generation who are coming into business as well. But the business case is there, according to the research that McKinsey have done. I can send you a copy of these slides, that's okay. So I wanted to frame that, and I'm going to invite Sam in just a second to tell us a story of what I've just shown you in action with a family member that he's going to tell you about. But this is where we started the movement for MAGE, with this here. And for us, I think the caveat that I'll put into it is that we're not standing here being ultra-righteous about this. We're not saying you can't be a man or a bloke or a this or that. I'm a proud man, you know. I am, but I want to learn how to be the right kind of man so that my son grows up with a positive role model. The kids that I work with in our social enterprise get the same way, and it's those small ripples that make great waves in the end. Costas.
I like to be fair. What we're doing here, we need to be fair, and I need to bring a question to you, which relates to Great Alexander. When Great Alexander finished conquering all the known world,
Yeah.
he said that now that we finish, let's live in peace, and everyone who has the right skills get their own irrelevant of religion, sex, color, language. So what I found is happening is on the name of equality and diversity, we giving roles to people who don't have the skills, and that can work a bit as a boomerang. I can see the statistics, but how do we, how the companies can mitigate that, not just ticking the boxes, because that can build in frustration to the good people who know the job. So it's important to be fair, and people who, when we have diversity, deserve the position rather than ticking boxes, because you can create an opposite effect.
Nick?
Can I just add a little bit to what you're saying as well? Those figures you've just given, okay, it's probably my ADHD that looks at all these things, you know. But I always analyse figures when figures come up, the statistics come up. Like $28 trillion, which I was $8 trillion out.
Very good.
Yeah. Yes. The thing is, what does that have on impact on family life? Because basically that was figures based on if women are working, contributing to the economy, etc. Okay, not if their mothers stay at home necessarily. So there must be a formula that they've come up with those figures. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, $28 trillion is added to the world's economy by women becoming much more involved in the making of that money, because there must be some formula that they use. But what does it do to the damage to family life?
Yeah, divorce.
Yeah, and they to be fair, they didn't look at that, but what they did do is look at the influence. So they included communities in this. What's the influence on other people by women being more active in community and business? So wherever there is a revenue generating area. So it's worth having a look at, but they didn't get down to the fact of what's the formula, I have to say.
When my wife
Yeah.
was working, we had to have a nursery place for our children.
Yeah,
Someone
yeah.
else to look after the children.
Yeah.
She couldn't be the mother always.
Yeah.
You know, so someone had to take that responsibility on.
That's right.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that I believe that while I'm 100% you have to tackle as well. You know, I think that's really, really important. But if we're going to bring the kind of world that we'd all like to see, as Gandhi said, be the change we like to see in the world, which is one of my favourite sayings, we have to take some realism into all of this as well. So how do we advance? And I believe the best way to go forward is education, education, education at a very young age. Yeah. We have to bring up children who think like the way we want them to think. Okay? So that's the key. We're not going to change all those people who are out there who got set in their ways. There's an old saying, you can't teach new tricks to old dogs. Yeah? So, but we can, through legislation, okay, limit the negative impact that has on stopping women progressing. Like in Parliament, for instance, we don't have near enough women in Parliament. Yeah. So we need to get more women making the laws. Yeah? And one of the reasons that women don't go to politics is largely due to childcare. That's one of the reasons that puts them off from going. So we have to make it easier for them to get involved in the legislative process as well. Yeah. That's the first thing that I've always learned being involved in politics, is that politics is the way to bring about those changes. Yeah.
So the group work that we're going to do is that we're going to tackle that. We're going to look at what we can do at government, what we can do in communities, how we educate, but also how we counter on social media so that we have a voice. Because you're right, we have to tackle, so I mentioned a few of these things that you've both mentioned here. The reality of the situation is there is an unfairness creeping in, which is then causing more bias in the argument that we're having. So we have to be the educators. Nobody's stepping up. So it's great. I can challenge that as well. We're violently agreeing, actually, in fact, with everything that you've just said. But we now have the shoe on the other foot to say, right, well, okay, what do we do to educate behind that? How do we work with these organizations, communities, cultures, generations that actually just start to change the mindset? So actually, it's not a thing, it's a mindset shift first, from my point of view. So, and that's one of the small shifts that we need to be able to make. But if you don't mind, I'd need to move on a little bit because I'd like to bring in Sam. So, Sam, because there are realities within this as well, which bring in both cultural plays but also gender plays. And I think you're going to talk about a very close family member, Sam.
Certainly. I'll stand on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you once again for giving me an opportunity. As I was growing up, I couldn't quite relate to what was going on in her professional life, but I knew something was happening. So I actually called her up and I said, can you tell me about that case that you went through? So that's what I'm sharing with you guys, actually. So my mom was the senior most doctor in her department in India, in Delhi. She was working for a government hospital at the time, and she was capable, visionary, strategic, and respected, everything a leader should have. Yet, despite all that, her male seniors blocked her promotion, not because she couldn't lead, but because they wanted a male representation at the top.
What the hell is that?
Right? Now, of course, there are cultural connotations to this as well. It's not like, different worldviews and stuff. Well, but she didn't stay quiet. She fought the system. We went to the court. She stood for fairness, but she fought that battle quite alone because other females, let alone males, didn't stand to support her. Anyway, the case got delayed for 12 years because it was not deemed as important enough. Right? She retired. And 5 years after her retirement, she got a call from the government officials saying, would you like to come to the court? We've got a date for the hearing. Anyway, she was not thinking anything about it because at the end of the day, she didn't get recognition while she retired. She didn't get the title or the position, let alone the pension and the money schemes that follow through. She finally won the case when she went back to the court. And the law got changed for every woman that follows after her. Right? She didn't get the dignity or the titles and the money, but the law got changed. Right? So then I asked my mom, okay, mom, that's great. Now, what did you learn from this story? So my lessons were kind of based on her own experiences. And these were the three things she said to me. She said to me that capability sometimes is not enough if opportunities is controlled by biases. Right? We've got to understand your talent might be there, but it still might be unseen. The second piece was she said that maybe she could have changed the job, she could have changed the department, but she didn't. Maybe she could have, right? So systems don't change just because women can try harder. It's not just about hard work here, right? In fact, if just one male leader would have stood his ground to support my mum, it would have been a different story, right? And the third piece of the puzzle was it should not take a woman her entire life to get a title, what she deserved. Those were the three lessons she gave me, and I'll bring this to close by simply sharing with you that women they already have the power. What they need is someone, the world not to block them. And we men ought to be working together with that. As fathers, as brothers, as sons, as fathers, we have to do that for our own generations as well. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.
That's why we trust you.
Yeah. Well said, Sam. Excellent. And there are some great examples of organizations, individuals, groups that are making progress in this area. And my dream, if you like, I'm not going to call it a dream, my wish would be is that part of the work that we can do is to start connecting some of those dots together so the voice starts becoming louder. So we educate, we start to shift mindsets. These are the small, important shifts first that we need to make. But we also need to kind of acknowledge, like you were saying, Nick, acknowledge the negative bias that can come with it as well, where people are making decisions because they feel they're ticking a box. You know, we've got to educate against that as well. So it's not just one-way traffic here, and it's well said by you two fellas on that one. You know, so we are, and this is why I say that our feet are firmly on the ground here. We're not rising ourselves up as saints or this, that, and the other. We're learning too, but we understand that there's two sides to the story. So we've got to get to the truths, and we've got to get the truths out there as part of our education, is the point. Sport, and we talked about football, and you know, the football plus alcohol equals a bad mix, particularly from a domestic abuse point of view. But there is one football club, I don't know if any of you have heard of Lewis FC? Lewis? Going, yes, yeah, do you know? Yeah, Lewis in Brighton. You have? Do you know, you're not the football club? Okay. So do you know what is unusual about this football club? It is a one of a kind in the world. What do you think it would be? No. No, not there are women. It's one of the, there is though, but it's not the point. No, and there are a few football clubs with women now. Go on. No, and it's not females playing with males from that point of view.
Is it a woman managing a male team?
No, there are women that do that in the world. No, it is the only football club in the world that is gender equal in wages terms. Yeah, they pay their women as much as they pay their men. No other club in the world does so. Yeah. And they have an active and a very active male advocacy approach within that group, with their men's teams and the assistant managers, the managers, and they have the hashtag call him out, and they take action where any misogyny, discrimination, gender violence or abuse is heard in there. Those people are kicked out straight away, and everybody's on board with that. And it's the men's team that supports with the women's team. It is. And it was so amazing. And if you're interested to hear the story, I have a podcast called the Rethink Leadership Podcast. I interviewed the CEO at the time, Karen, and the assistant manager of the men's team, Joe, to talk just about that. What does it mean and how did they get it right? There's a lot of lessons that we can learn from that. Sorry? Non-league. Yeah, non-league, yeah.
So they're amateurs?
These damn amateurs getting everywhere, yeah. No, not the women. The men's are the amateur team. The women's are actually in the proper women's league, and in fact they are batting way above their weight. So they have a seat at the very top table, and they are calling out Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United, who don't have anything like this in their clubs. They say they do. They produce very good marketing, but they don't act upon it and lead it.
Add to that,
Yes?
it's very important this, because
Yep.
most same number of,
Yeah.
because football relies on people who pay money at the game. So if there's a money, so the female teams don't necessarily attract as many of the numbers that the male teams would attract.
I beg to differ. So, do you know the statistic of the Women's World Cup and the European Championships? Yeah, but higher than the men. Higher than the men, more revenue generated. Yes, I take your point, but there is also a brilliant story as a benchmark for the league to say, you're missing an opportunity here. I know you are, Nick. I know you are. I know. Yeah. But there's a very strong story to say, actually, you get this right, and you've got a potential as high as or higher. So, you know, I'm not, this isn't a football conversation. This is... What, even Nick? Right.
In the corporate world, it's ignorance.
Yeah.
I mean, like with your opening, there's a lot of stuff you don't know.
Exactly right.
So which is why in the corporate world, certain things are like tick boxes. But once you get people to see, once you get to, you show it to them, it's like diversity and inclusion. When that was introduced, everybody was, every company had to do it. So it was quick, get all the teach diversity. It was a tick box. But until you say what it is and what it means, you know, even something as speaking your own language of work, when you realize how people struggle with that, then it made a difference. So it's the same with this topic at work. Once a man is educated, then you know how they deliver.
Goes to education again. And I have to say, Nick though, is... would you like to...
No, sorry, no.
No, no.
Because there are lots of educated men where they are very biased and they are disrespecting women. When we are talking about education, in our cells, like they should have a gender, they should be educated. It's not just like education.
It relates to what Nick was saying before about actually as you go into, we call it class or education or intelligence, you know, whatever we want to say, it can happen anywhere. And Nick is absolutely right. Sorry, because he's recording. Nick is absolutely right to play devil's advocate because MAGE as a group, we need to see the challenge to the argument that we're making. We need to have a really strong response to it, or we have to be able to put our hand up and say, you know what, we don't know why that's happening. We don't know why, and we don't know how to change this tick box mentality of some corporates that are just doing this, which is alienating the men in the organisation. We don't know, but we're going to find out. So thank you for that. Okay, so let me introduce you to MAGE, and very simply, the group around what we are, men advocating gender equality. And this is about the nation, it's about society, it's about our communities, and it's about our families. And it's in everywhere where we operate, whether it's on the sports field, in the terraces, whether it's in our corporate world, whether education. Now, we can't do everything. You know, there's a handful of us, but what we can do is make some small steps and get some serious good influencers, sponsors in all of these areas. Speak up, speak out, and act. What that means in reality is being able to, if I'm in a group, in a meeting, and somebody is a little bit mouthy around this, is speaking up and not laughing with them like the rest of them, because that tribal kind of whatever is actually calling it up. Then speaking out is taking that outside of the individual in the room, saying, this is a problem here. It's environmental, it's the climate, it's cultural, whatever it turns out to be. And having that discussion, let's say, versus operational at a more strategic level. And then, what is the action we're going to take? Because if we just use words, we can't move the dial as much. We can maybe start to shift some people. Rochelle?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. And back to the point that you were making on the screen earlier, with it's not about demasculation. Kind of adding to that, I tend to challenge this, what I'm seeing in the picture here. My son is a feminist, and I challenge this idea of more men becoming feminists, because I don't think we need more men to become feminists. I think we need to create better male role models. So I think, for example, what is really needed is for
Yeah.
stereotype of a good male quality is being protective.
Yeah.
That example you gave just there was perfect. If you're seeing a woman being disadvantaged, a man is, let's say someone is cutting her off in speech, you stand up in your male essence role and whatnot, and you protect that woman, you let her have her say. I think it's really important
Yeah.
to have females that can be, have females represented and reaching their full potential by having men support them who are good men, not that we're trying to turn into feminists or good women. or
Yeah,
have
yeah,
many
yeah.
qualities. Male qualities are good, and I think we need to speak
Yeah.
more to good male qualities rather than encouraging men to be
Yeah.
more like women. Both are important, both male qualities and female qualities. But good
Yeah. So, as I'm living proof that I'm still learning, right? Okay, yeah, as we said, and we are, which is why we need all of these voices in MAGE, because we can't afford to make missteps, even with AI-generated images, because AI is, of course, programmed by the men. The lady at the back, sorry, you had something to say, yes? That's all right. Would you like the microphone? And then I'll come to you as well, yes, yeah.
I just want to say that there is a platform called Men Empowered across the world, and I want to offer that opportunity for you to speak on there, and I can put you in touch with the organizer. I also want to say that there is Women Empowered across the world, which was the first one that started, and now there is also a move to have each other's guests, so the Men Empowered inviting the Women Empowered guests and vice versa. So it's all about working together across men and women, and I just want to do anything I can to support. Great, thank you.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Julie Dyer. I just wanted to say that that word feminist or feminism it's quite a broad word, and it doesn't necessarily preclude having, retaining male characteristics or traits. Feminism there was a time it was like really huge on social media, so I read a few things. I wasn't too involved, but I got to see where someone described feminism as like a tree that is grafted with different fruits. So feminism could mean one thing to me within my view, but another person could have a slightly different perspective. And so for someone to say my son is a feminist might not necessarily mean the son isn't acting in that full male, capacity. Oh, there's another point I wanted to make. I think what I wanted to say is that I even feel there are feminists, as feminists, my color of feminism, I think, if I became, would be to encourage men to be men, like to work in their full characteristic as it is. So my feminism would not just stop where I and my fellow women are concerned, but would also extend to the men to enable them become all they should be.
Thank you very much. Excellent points there everywhere. And we are, I'm holding my hand up here, saying it is like we've got, how easy it is to fall into traps. When you're saying it, the words that you use, the images that are there, which, you don't give a second thought of until somebody calls it out. But what you've done is that first thing, you've spoken up. That's what we mean in a group like this, that everybody speaks up. I didn't mean just men for women. If it's a full men's group, then yes, it is the man, standing up. But we all speak up in this room. Then we take that out of the room and say, right, okay, how do we speak out about this and the language that we use? So how do we educate others and young people particularly to use the right language? And then how do we act and model that in terms of our behaviours? So a great example, which I hadn't meant, but great one in terms of, how that plays out with what we're trying to do. So thank you for the contributions there on that one. This is what we stand for. And I think this will be another one for everybody in this room, and look at that with a really critical eye and say, are we being patronising? Are we using the wrong words? Are we saying the right thing? I don't know how many iterations we've had of this, but please read this for me. Does this resonate? Is it saying what we should say? About for all of you women in the room that are passionate about this, does that resonate? Are we saying the right things? Is this said in the right way? You're not a woman last time I checked, Costas, but you are allowed to say, yeah, that's it, yeah. That's, but hey ho. Rochelle.
I think it's really good, and I really like the point that the lady made back here as well.
Yeah.
In terms, because I think the thing you followed on after in terms of highlighting the language that
Yeah.
as well. I think it's really good that you have that you're challenging a certain type of masculinity, and I feel on top of that and on top of advocating for gender equality, it should also be something within it about promoting what you want to see as good masculinity. So not just highlighting and fighting the bad, but what are we replacing the bad with?
Right. Could you send me a WhatsApp, please, with that on? Thank you very much. Because she has my number, so that's great. Brilliant. So that's what we're about. I'm going to stop now so that we can all contribute to this and think about what we need to do in 4 key areas, okay? So we now have enough people in the room. We've had a lot of people join us since we started here. You'll see that there are 4 tables on the side, and we're going to spend sort of 15 minutes in the group trying to get to action. So let me just take some time to explain this, okay, what we would like to do. So if we are to make progress, we have to identify the right small actions to take. And let me reinforce for those of you that have come in later, is that if we try to do too much or we look at this at just the big picture level, we're going to fail. So what are the small steps that we can take in all of these areas that will help us move forward and then give us a platform to accelerate from there? So group 1. So if you're in group 1, and I'll split the room in a minute, and I'm going to read these out, okay? So what can we do at governmental level, national or local, to move the dial? How? What should be our first steps, and who should help us? So who are these people that we should be talking to in government that you were talking about before, Nick? What about our local governments? So I was talking about a big stat in Wiltshire. I know who I need to talk to now in Wiltshire. I've already got a meeting with those people. So any ideas that come out from you, from your experience, okay, from that. Group 2, how do we engage educational institutions and communities? So not just the schools in our communities, but youth groups that do this. Other groups that you mentioned, the lady mentioned at the back as well, that may be doing this where we can join some dots together or join forces together to target young people, and young people as defined by the government are around 12 to 24. So targeting those people, what do we need to do? How best to do it? Again, what are our first actions? Make sense? Yeah. Okay, so again, it's a big topic, but small steps. The third is the business community. How do we work with leaders? Because in my experience, the mindset at leadership level drives the cultural approach in terms of values and behaviors. What do we need to do to enable great levels of male allyship and advocacy in our organizations without stepping over the boundaries, without being patronizing, without doing what Will Smith did? Remember what Will Smith, do you remember the Will Smith at the Oscars, wasn't it? Yeah, where Chris Rock was making jokes about his wife. Will Smith got on the stage. I think you can, I can see how his brain was working. But what he did with one fell swoop was take the legs off his wife. Who, because it's like, I need to stand up for you. Whereas actually then there was a lot of kind of balance around that about actually Jaden, Jaden Smith was able to stand up for himself. Nick?
Just a quick add on that.
Go on. Yeah.
Both of them signed my Mandela book.
Did they?
Book in 2007.
Right.
Both in that book. And Chris Rock made an outrageous statement, and this is the message to Nelson Mandela celebrating. my black ass.
Yeah.
Underneath, Adam Sandler wrote, I can't believe he said that. So this one is prone to making these kind of
Yeah.
outrageous comments.
Yeah.
Part of his persona.
Yeah, but do you know the ex-basketball player Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? He does absolutely superb blogs these days, and his blog on what happened here, and actually this talking about what we're talking about here is where is the line of male allyship versus actually standing, as Lorna said right at the beginning, standing next to, when rather than saying, I'll protect you, let me deal with this situation without even asking. I'd urge you to go and read that. It's a great, great blog on what happened next. So anyway, that's there. And then I think group 4, it's thinking a little bit wider than that, thinking, okay, who are influencers, or it used to be called influencers, it's now the creator economy. Who are the creators, but let's call them influencers as well, in whatever field you like, that we could engage, that maybe talk about this, that would be interested, and what should be our social media presence and tone of voice here, and where should we be? Should we be on X or should we not? You know, it's like, well, no, that's the question, exactly. And how do we counter in what our argumentation is around the toxic machismo? So I don't use masculinity in this way for reasons we've all talked about. But if you look up the word machismo, and particularly then toxic machismo versus toxic masculinity, it zeroes in on what we're really focused on here and doing that. So is that clear? Is that clear? Okay. Have you done it already?
Yeah, I'll put it.
Oh, brilliant. Lorna, fantastic. So we've got to make sure that we have mixed groups, okay? So... Okay, well, let me, okay. Okay, I think I can do this. That's what I'm going to do, yeah, but, okay, so, yes, correct, yeah. Wait, no, because we've got to do it with split. I've got to do it with, make sure we've got enough men as well, so, wait a second, what am I going to do then? So I'm going to do it splits instead, so, one. Yes. Yes. Okay. Right. What? Let me count you. Okay. 1, 2.
No, choose the men, so it goes group
No.
1.
Yeah. All right. Lorna will do it. I think. Yes.
I thought we should go according to the experience process. I believe I'm very good on the number 1.
Okay. Yes.
As a government. So that's,
Any mayors in the room? Okay. Right.
No, I would just say because she's an expert. He's an expert.
Okay. Let me. I'll tell you what I'll do. We'll just do it that way. Okay. And I'm going to count the ladies out first so that we've got an equal go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
We are 9 ladies.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right.
So every 2 in a group and 1 will be extra.
Yeah, and then right. So have you got your numbers? Right. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Are you going to be in a group?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. 3 and 4. Lady there. Okay. Would you like to be in a group, Thelma? Yeah. Okay. 1. Oh, have you moved already? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. And then 1, 2. Okay, we're there. Okay. So now let's split up the men in the same way. Sorry. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. No, Robin. No, you're not. I've not done you yet, Robin. No. Okay. All right. So what number? 2. 2, 3. Robin. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Right. So, number 1s, number 2s, number 3s, number 4s. Sorry? Yeah. I did count you out, actually. So, let's see what, let's just wait and we'll see yeah, we will. Yeah. Okay, so if you could just get in your groups. I've got 2 ladies here who can do. So please just get into your groups. So you'll be in group 2.